It's Wednesday, time for another edition of Speed Chronicles. Thanks for joining us on the RevTV YouTube channel. At RevTV, at Todd Lewis Sports are the social channels to hit us up, either on Instagram, either on X. What a couple of weeks we have gone through in terms of racing and motorsports in the Southern Ontario area. Started with the dirt track weekend, the big weekend with NASCAR Canada and sprint cars at a weekend, followed right up with IMSA at CTMP with the annual visit from IMSA. It was a spectacular weekend. And we just finished up a couple of days ago, the Ontario Honda dealers, Indy, Toronto. The confession is, I love this event. I love this event. I have for years, many, many years. It holds a special place in my heart because I kind of grew up with it. It was one of the events that fueled my love of racing and motorsports and just being around it and the opportunity to be up close to it. So I have a real affection for the Ontario Honda dealers, Indy, Toronto, which I know is not the original name of this event, but that's the name that it is now, and that's the name that I kept saying over and over and over again all weekend long. So it was great if you were able to come out and join us. Glad that you made it. Hope you had a great time. I know an awful lot of people did. Even just hearing afterwards, just some casual conversations going on around me. I was like, that was fantastic. I really enjoyed it. And I can't wait to go back next year. We're going to do it different next year. Maybe going to bring the family one day or some days and just guys on one day. So it was just, it's a great event. And I really, really like it. I know it takes some heat. I know it takes a little abuse because, people get cranky about having roads closed and the like. But the millions of dollars in economic impact is worth it if you want to think about it in that direction. As I say, it is one of the great events of the summer, especially for those of us that love racing and love motorsports and have the opportunity to be around it. So we had a total of 10 races on the weekend. Lots of good racing action, whether it was Radical Cup Canada and Radical Cup North America, who had a combined event with both sanctioning bodies running 39 cars in one of the races. We went down to 37 or 38 in the others, but just huge fields of cars and radicals and great racing action through all of the different disciplines. And we had Sports Car Championship Canada who were part of it. And again, had some really good racing action with the sports cars, the ladder system up to IndyCar with USF 2000 and the USF Pro 2000, part of the USF Championships. Again, more really good racing action from some talented drivers that I expect we'll be seeing a few of them in the NTT IndyCar series a few years from now, who also provided 85 laps worth of excitement. In fact, more of that. That was just during the race. Lots of drama, lots of excitement through the weekend. Corner 8 seemed to be the one this year that was catching everybody out, didn't matter what series. Really had a number of drivers who went off in corner number 8. It's super tough, super tricky with asphalt and concrete, some resurfacing that took place. There's some bumps in the road on entry and on exit in that corner. It caught a few drivers out. Linus Lundqvist stuck it in the wall, but Alexander Rossi had the most serious hit in the wall, wound up breaking his thumb, wound up not being able to race, and that meant more drama because McLaren had to announce another driver, and it was an old friend in Theo Pourchaire who was summoned from Europe to come and join the team to race in Toronto. Did a hell of a job, by the way, too, because he had never seen the track before qualifying, ran the warm up, and still had a very good result in the race. Had a lot of carnage, had a lot of damage in the race. For the second weekend in a row, IndyCars had cars flying through the air. This time it was Santino, Ferrucci. It's hard going through corner number 1 on a restart, high speed. You're trying to use that opportunity to make a pass. As you get to the right-hander, it's kind of a blind corner, and we had cars collide. It's sometimes a chain reaction accident. That's the way it worked out. But again, those are the on-track activities away from the track and all of the Thunder Alley merchants and the food trucks that were there and all the other activations and displays. Super busy. It was a great crowd all weekend long. Everybody talked about what a sensational crowd it was on 2023. It was a really good crowd again this year. Free Fan Friday was a success. Busy Saturday, a full race day on Sunday, and I look forward to next year. I know there are some that are kind of twitching and worrying about the future of the event. I guess that's understandable to have a concern with the World Cup coming to Toronto in a couple of years, but that's not for 2 years. The event is already on the 2025 IndyCar schedule because IndyCar has already released their 2025 schedule. So I think still a few I's to dot, T's to cross, but nothing that is insurmountable for next year. The questions are around in 2026. I have confidence that there is a path forward. There's a few different ways to look at it, a few different ways to approach it. I have confidence that there is a path forward. The final World Cup game that is to be played in Toronto is somewhere around the third week of June, which still leaves plenty of time to set up and prepare for the Indy around the CNE grounds. Let's make it work. Let's make it happen for everyone. There's no reason you can't have two big events a month apart at the same location. So let's look at ways to make it work for everyone. That's still a long way off, but we'll look forward to that. The notable absence from the Ontario Honda Dealers Indy Toronto this year was, of course, the NASCAR Canada Series. Schedules didn't line up. Schedules didn't work. The NASCAR Canada Series was in Saskatoon, and they raced 250 laps. They continued their Western swing this weekend in Edmonton. A little more on that later. It's disappointing for me because I've been part of that series since its inception. I've been part of the Indy as a fan for 30 plus years and been part of working at the event for 20 plus years in various capacities. So it was really disappointing to me to not have two of my loves in the same location on the same weekend. We'll see if it's a one-year wonder. I know that both parties would like to correct that problem for 2025. And let's hope that everyone, again, finds the path forward to make this happen because there are ways to make it work. I'm confident that it will work next year and NASCAR will be back in Toronto once again, racing around Exhibition Place because we've had such terrific NASCAR races there. It's the feature event on Friday for the last few years. It's really something special to see the stock cars there. The Tragically Hip, never had a chance to meet them before, played an awful lot of their music going back to radio days many, many years ago. When I worked in music radio, played an awful lot of hip songs, but actually got a fun opportunity to meet and have a quick chat with the guys this weekend. And they were great. They were sensational. They were having fun. They were having a good time. I in a sense, got to be the roadie because I held the mic when they gave the command for drivers to start their engines. But really nice. Gord went for a ride in the two-seater, which I've also done. And so we chatted a bit about that. But a really fun experience for them, for everyone. The ovation they got being introduced was really fantastic. So it was, by all accounts, a great success everywhere for the Ontario Honda Dealers Indy Toronto. Let's hope that NASCAR returns to be part of the program in 2025, and we'll look forward to that. On the NASCAR Cup Series and NASCAR Xfinity Series, they were racing elsewhere at Indianapolis. Seems kind of odd that IndyCar is racing, but not at the Speedway, but NASCAR is racing at the Speedway on the same weekend. It's a bit weird just from a perception standpoint, but the Xfinity race seemed okay. Pretty good drama at the end. Once again, we had NASCAR with questions being asked about the finish of the race because you got overtime again. You got drivers running out of fuel, causing disruptions on restarts, collisions, when to throw a caution flag, whether or not it was the right time. I don't know. Seems like this is a solvable problem to me. It's a problem that maybe shouldn't be a problem. Because if you keep having an indefinite number of overtimes, you're going to keep having people running out of fuel because how do you try to strategize for a race where you don't know when it's going to end? Usually races are a specific number of laps or a specific time. But if you change that, well, then basically you're spinning the roulette wheel to see who wins. I know you want races to end under green. Everybody wants races to end under green and have at least two drivers battling for that final finishing order position and to take the checkered flag. It doesn't always work that way. Do you want drivers running out of fuel, maybe causing cautions and multiple cautions, and disrupting what should be a more logical finish for someone who has earned the right to be up front? Or do you want to finish under green every week? Maybe there's your question. Maybe that's what we need to ask. Maybe that's what we need to look at. I'm becoming increasingly more frustrated with this indefinite number of overtimes, as it's called. You're changing the length of the race, sometimes substantially, and I find that really frustrating. I can't imagine how frustrating teams find it to A, strategize, and B, think about all the money that you're costing your teams in this time when everyone's talking about trying to control the costs of racing. That's the part that's frustrating for me. We'll see where it goes. No word on the NASCAR Cup Series schedule yet. I still think we're a few weeks away for that. Kind of curious to see what it looks like when it comes out, though. I have a few thoughts. I have a few ideas. I'll save them until when the series is actually announced officially. Formula One also racing this weekend. And how about that 1-2 McLaren finish? Oscar Piastri, congratulations on your first Formula One victory. I don't know if you want to congratulate Lando Norris for moving aside and letting you pass as the team was instructing him to over and over and over and over again. Man, this is the kind of stuff that fuels Drive to Survive, doesn't it? Is it a car race? Is it a sporting event? Or is it a drama? Is it the real race car drivers of Formula One? I don't know. That seemed like a real mine's bigger than yours kind of contest. And I'm showing you who's the number one driver there from Lando Norris. I'm curious to see how that plays out. Would have loved to have been in the post-race debrief. Would have loved to have sat in on that meeting. I'm really curious to see what the dynamic is of McLaren going forward. This is the cutthroat nature of high-level professional sports sometimes. Yes, you're teammates, you're still racing one another, and sometimes teams define one driver as the number one driver more so than others. Sometimes the driver wants to stake their claim as the number one driver, as it sure seems Lando Norris did. Max Verstappen was a little bit cranky, a little bit whiny. Okay, you don't have the number one car anymore, necessarily. If you do, it's not as big a gap as it used to be. Now we'll see what Max is made of. But he always struck me as a bit of a, even when he was head and shoulders above everyone in terms of the dominant car, still a bit whiny every now and again. Shut up and focus and drive. There is a big break in a lot of racing schedules now because of the Olympics that are taking place in Paris. No NASCAR for a couple of weeks, no IndyCar for a few weeks. IMSA will be the only series that really gets going in North America over the next little while, some drag racing as well. I'm curious about this break. Teams are ready for it. Teams need it because they've had their schedules just non-stop since the beginning of the year. IndyCar teams are worn out. NASCAR's been going for like 20 or 21 weeks in a row. Understandable, you'd need a break. But this is what happens when you take a couple of weeks off to protect the Olympics. It's not that the series want to take 2 weeks off in the middle of the season, the way Formula One schedules their break, but the television provider is devoting all their resources to the Olympics, and there's no available television time. Nobody would work on the broadcast because they're all focused on Olympics. I don't know if this is a good step in the right direction for the future or not, but this is what we're going to have for the next little while. I guess I like the Olympics. I'm not viewing it as must-see shows every night for the next 2 weeks, 16 days, however it is. I'll take a little dose of the Monty Python Silly Olympics. I might check in on a few stories here and there, but it's not must-see viewing for me every night or every day. As mentioned, NASCAR is in action this weekend. They are continuing and finishing their Western swing after Saskatoon last week. They will be in Edmonton at Edmonton International Raceway. I'll join them out there for that event. Looking forward to 300 laps of racing at Edmonton. The car counts have certainly been a bit of a focus. I'd like to see more. I understand why they are where they are. We'll reserve comment on that one until after I get out there and see what happens in Edmonton. I thought the crowd, from what I could tell, and again, I wasn't there, I thought it was a little lower than what I was expecting in Saskatoon. We'll see what happens in Edmonton, but there's some work to be done out there. And it's not all on the teams. It's a lot of different stakeholders. Again, we'll reserve comment on that until next week. Hope you have a good week. Thanks for tuning in this edition of Speed Chronicles. At Todd Lewis Sports, at RevTV, the social channels for feedback, and we'll be back to do it again next Wednesday.